If I told you Arsenal was going to win the Premier League title some 5 years ago, would you have ever believed?
If someone had told me after 1992 that Liverpool was going 30 years, I wasn't going to believe. So everything is possible.
Everything is possible.
Everything is possible.
Well, the reality stays before us. Arsenal look like the real deal.
If you say you look like, in this world, you never say never. So if in the perspective of saying look like, it's possible. But hey, I have seen this in the past few years. Remember last season, last 2 seasons, United by now, they were leading.
United were leading, that's true.
Yes, United were leading, City were second. And that was what everybody thought. And what happened in the end?
But you look at Arsenal this season, they are playing a different brand of football. There's that willpower to win. There's that zeal to make sure they take every game to every opponent. You look at what they did to Liverpool yesterday.
I'm not going to take it away from them. But then one thing that I've also realized is that save Liverpool. You see, Liverpool this season are not the Liverpool we know. United beat Liverpool. So if Arsenal beat Liverpool, it wouldn't be a big deal. But when they met one of the top six, they were able to, should I say, for Tottenham, you can say that it is always going to be Arsenal because Arsenal always wins at home with Tottenham. But out of the top six, they've beaten two.
Yep.
They've beaten Liverpool, they've beaten Spurs. And Mourinho said this one thing, that if you want to win the league, it is not about beating the big teams. You take points from the small teams and you share it with the big teams. So they are on course. If they really keep their head in the game, nothing is impossible. It's a possibility because if we can talk about Leicester, when they started, we were like, oh, they're going to falter. We kept giving them task upon task upon task. And funny enough, they kept going over hurdle after hurdle. So we only pray their players stay fit, Jesus stays fit, Partey stays fit, and everything keeps on going on well for them because save City. You can't really see any team giving them a tough
time this season. Arsenal don't look like they're stopping. You look at Arteta, you listen to his post-match, he makes it clear they're taking it game by game.
Of course.
And you look at how they've played every single game this season. Their approach has been pretty much the same, except for United, where they were left exposed by their own frailties since they decided to push a high line. They learned from that episode. And you look at Liverpool yesterday. Whenever Liverpool came back into the game, Arsenal did not feel like this is old Arsenal. They kept going. They kept taking the game to Liverpool. And that is a different energy we are witnessing in this Arsenal team. Arteta gradually is instilling discipline in this team. They are getting to know that they're getting to feel we're unbeatable at this material point in time because they are not afraid of any opponent. And that particular game with City, which will come in a couple of weeks, will be one to look forward to. But for Liverpool, I think Jurgen Klopp, probably is it time he leaves the stage?
We've talked about this earlier, and I said this, and we made should I say, a trend about what has happened in his past 3 jobs, and it was the very same thing. We talked about Dortmund, Dortmund. We talked about
Augsburg,
and we talked about Mainz, and we realized that it was the same trend going. Like I said, it's more like I don't want to say. I don't want to bring any other thing apart from sports in it, but there is this one thing you should believe. I always tell you that you should believe that sports goes beyond sport. And it is something that happens, but we are not here to discuss that. But then it's like deja vu, everything all over again.
7-year curse.
What went wrong? Absolutely nothing went wrong. We talked about Mane leaving, but Mane was not the main character of the team. Van Dijk is fit. Salah is fit. Firmino is around. You brought in a Nunes, you brought in a Diaz. Everybody is there. They've augmented the squad. They've brought in Carvalho and everything. Nothing just seems to work for them. Because we've talked about trends, you've talked about everything. You can talk about he being incorrigible in some sense, which I talked about the last time. If you realize that the player's position is not is exposing the player to 1 or 2 things, but has other advantages. You can look at Michail Antonio. Michail Antonio started as a right back, and he was pushed forward, and he went to a right wing forward. Then he was pushed to a number 10. Now he's a center forward. That's how I talked to you about Lewandowski started as a centre back. There was the issue of Gareth Bale. There was Cristiano Ronaldo started as a full winger. Then he was converted to a number 9. So you realize that this is the player trend. And the funny thing is that after every game, you can see that the problems are always coming from the right. Every team has realized it.
We spoke about it in the preview that there was always going to be that overload when you go down the trend and you were bound to have joy.
Very good, because you checked Martinelli. Martinelli was just using the right. And Gabriel Jesus, of course, is a centre forward, but he tries with the right. And you realize that there was so much over. He is not good at defending. And everybody sees that. Why not? The thing is that if he changes him, where does he put him?
Are you by this suggesting we push? Because if you look at Liverpool, they've practically moved to a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 in their last 2 games, the Rangers in the Champions League and then Arsenal in the Premier League. And that creates room for a right winger.
Yeah.
Given Trent's weaknesses in defense, if he opts to go for a 4-4-2, does he play Trent out on the right wing, Joe Gomez at right back, then you have a double cover.
And what happens to, so if you have to play 2 centre forwards. It will mean that you have to be Salah.
Probably shift Salah to, because you look at Salah this season, when he's had to play without a number 9, his responsibilities have always been different. He's often allowed to cut in, he's often allowed to tuck in, and then allow Trent to go on the overload. But when he's having to play with a number 9, and then he has to hug the touchline, he has to be responsible for putting in the crosses, which hasn't resulted very much this season. 2 goals in 9 Premier League games is not a tally you would obviously...
I don't think it would always have to be that, because how many times has Darwin Núñez started? Darwin Núñez has not started in many of the games. It has always been Firmino. Yeah, Firmino, or sometimes Jota comes in after he was injured. There were even times that he preferred not to use any of them, because especially Darwin Núñez came, he had a red card, so 3 games off and all that. It's just that the spark is just not there. And I was always telling you that when there was money, it's like people are quick to eliminate the money factor, but it's a factor, because there were the 3 of them, and they could interchange at will at any time. Firmino was the decoy, and the 2 of them are more like inverted forwards. Now this time round, Diaz does not do what Mane does. If you watch Diaz very well, Diaz is the typical South American left winger who would want to dribble in and make the assist, not to score goals. But Mane was the one who does the decoy. He stays upfront, go with the counter, and he will go for the goal himself. And you see Salah, now it's more or less like the decoy thing is done by only him. Apart from that too, we always spoke about the fact that Liverpool's midfield does not add a lot to the attack. Trent was the one who would go in and fly in the cross. And remember that most of Salah's goals will come from the left cross. Who was doing the left cross? Robertson. Robertson has been injured. He's not around. So who does the cross in? And now Trent is not giving the room to come forward.
Yes, he's getting exposed.
Yes, yesterday Tomiyasu did a Tomiyasu on him. He cannot come in to do the crosses. So he's always left at the back. He doesn't come in. There's no Robertson to also do the crosses. And Darwin Núñez is a typical centre forward. He's a centre forward. So he's there waiting for the crosses to come. But who makes the crosses? So for Salah, for the midfield of Liverpool, we can pardon them because he actually had nothing, virtually nothing. But with Trent, he can come forward. Because now he's realized that when he comes forward, he's exposed. He's very exposed. In fact, even the opposition line knows that they wouldn't give him the chance to come because now there's no Robertson. So all the attack is on him. So for Salah, that creative spark in Trent and Robertson is not realized. And the fact that it's not realized is not giving him, because Salah is not a dribbler who go in, dribble, find his way. He hardly scores with long ranges and the rest. He's in the box. You cross, or there's a dummy, a 1-2, he goes in. That's all he scores with. So it's about time that I will never stop saying that Klopp for me is a B+ coach. That's the best I can give him. A coach you augment. I gave you instances of Guardiola. He didn't have a center. What does he play? He loads you with a lot of attacking midfielders, a lot of passes, and he scores. Now that he has Haaland, he stopped he's changed his style of play. Now every ball, De Bruyne looks straight. There is Haaland there. When he had the Xavi, Iniesta, and the rest, he holds on to the ball. I can give you instances of Mourinho. There are times Mourinho will play a double pivot. When he went to Real Madrid, he stopped playing the double pivot. When he got to Manchester United, he changed it. There was Pogba and there was another. You talk about Ferguson. Over the years, there were times he was playing 4-3-3, times he was playing 4-2-3-1. When he had Van Persie, he played 1 forward. When he had Rooney and Van Nistelrooy, he played 2 forward. But you have come 7 years. And since the time for the past 5 years that you have this, you consistently want to play it with the same players. And the funny thing is that most of the players that either left have lost form or they are old.
So Liverpool's struggles are basically down to Klopp's inability to read.
Of course, you have to bring it down onto the coach because Trent, for everything, you can't take away his attacking abilities. But how do you make the best out of it? They realize that Mikel Antonio was good going forward, was bad at defending. What does he do? So the coaches decided to change, augment, and try to bring. Now that he was made a center forward and Meko Anatovic left, he is the one giving them the goals. And because he's strong, even if he doesn't give you the goals, he holds up play. And that is what Klopp has to exploit. Else, the guy is gradually losing confidence. You watch him in the game, and it's very sad. It's very, very, very sad.
Well, Trent, the discussion will definitely go on as to whether his best position is to be a defender, which we've come to know over the years, or whether he would move up front in a right wing or probably a right forward position, like we saw with Gareth Bale. That definitely would linger on. But Manchester United managed to finally produce a result after that humbling at the Etihad, and it almost looked like it was Etihad all over again when he will be scored the first goal by Cristiano Ronaldo and then Anthony. And you look at Anthony first of all, 3 games, 3 goals. It looks to be justifying his price tag. And would it be fair to say the 100 million after all was not overpriced?
For the 100 million, we've talked about it here that there were a lot of factors that had to be considered. Considering he had a contract, he had over 2 years, about 3 years contract. Buying him out of contract, 1, you would have to spend 2. He was a player in demand. This strict business. You need the player. We are not ready to sell. We give you the price. And time was elapsing. What do? They have to pay him. His age, he's around 22. He's a Brazilian. It comes in. So it is not necessarily down to his talent. Buying a player goes beyond that. So all of that came into it, and that was the reason why the price had to shoot up. So that one is understandable. But justifying the price, that a lot of players have not justified the price. If you are looking for him to score 100 goals before he justifies, then you have to put it aside. But his role and the urgency that United wanted is now justified. It showed that United needed a right winger who is a left footer. And when United bought a Sancho and was put on the right, he couldn't cut in, and he's still trying to find his form. But when he came, he realized that all of Anthony's goals, he cuts in and he scores. The brilliant goal he scored against City, he cuts in. The first goal he scored, he cuts in. This one is the same thing. So it is, his position is justified. But with the price, it went beyond his abilities. So for those ones, we have to. It's just 3 games. You have to remember when United bought Daniel James. First 3 games, the guy scored. And what happened? So it's early days yet, but so far so good. He's living up to the billing.
He's living up to the billing. You look at what he's adding. You mentioned the fact that United for some time now have lagged in that particular position.
Of course.
They've had to chop and change. James has example. Sancho has brought in. Anthony is also, and you look at his contribution to this team, you sort of feel that Erik ten Hag is finally getting it right, or to some extent has got it right with this particular purchase. The least said about Lisandro Martinez the better, because we know exactly how much he's contributed to that defense,
of course.
And making them very much solid. But for Ronaldo, he's been on the fringes. He's had to wait a long while. Finally, number 700 came, and he came in some style. It was a goal made in Madrid and produced in Manchester. Casemiro, rolling back the years.
Yes. Before I even talk about the Ronaldo bit, there's just a bit about United. You see, I wouldn't say Erik ten Hag has gotten it right, because there's work in progress. Because when he came, there are a lot of fringes and a lot of things that have to be ironed, a lot of crampons he has to iron. Now, with United, I still see he doesn't have his 11 yet. I would say for the back line, he's okay. He's okay because Lisandro Martinez is a typical South American matador. He is short. It's just like Gary Medel. Gary Medel of Chile. Very short, but he's a central defender. He was one. In fact, he was one of the main reasons why Argentina couldn't win 15 and 16 Copa America, because he would bully you around. And this is him. And his passes are so accurate. His long passes. You see, you are there talking about Van Dijk and the rest, but you look at him watching United's last game, especially versus Omonia. There was a pass he gave, the one that Anthony couldn't give to Bruno Fernandes to score. That range, his passes are on point, his defenses, his aggression, everything is. I would say that he's the best purchase. Probably after him, then you can talk about Eriksen. One player people are not really noticing is Bruno Fernandes. The player has lost form for a very long time. And it's like United does not have an option. Because if you say you want to play Eriksen in number 10, who fills Eriksen's role? Van de Beek is injured. And if you check the team, there are only 2 players who can play both the number 8 and the number 6. And I think when Bruno Fernandes also comes good, he's also able to really find his form. Then you will see that the team is so. Now the only place that I would say left is the front line. His first 11. Ronaldo not starting is justifiable because 1, he didn't come for preseason. 2, Rashford is on form. You can't bench him. For Sancho, I'm sure that he gave him the benefit of the doubt. He gave him a lot of chances to prove himself. And for the past 2-3 games, he's not really living up to it. So it was understandable that when Martial came, he had to drop to the bench. And I think that with Ronaldo's persistency and he getting the goal, because the last match, he did everything but a goal. So I think this will push him to now edging forward to have a start, because now there's Rashford. Anthony, from what he's doing, his position, no one else plays it. So the only thing left was a center line, which Rashford could have started from the right. So I think Ronaldo now edging, because Martial is injured now. So Ronaldo comes in. He has options. There's Sancho and there is Martial too. So that if the front line also is on point. Now between Casemiro and McTominay, I understand, because before Casemiro came in, McTominay, his press conference, McTominay was doing what should be done. Yes. So you can't just bench him because you have a Casemiro. I think he wants to break down the fact that stardom doesn't work here. But he should be very careful. Stardom works. Of course, stardom works. If the player is that good, you don't have to try to treat him as all players are the same. All players are never the same. They are never the same. But of course, for Ronaldo, it's more like a retirement thing he's doing. But the rest of the players, he wants to bring this thing down, that there is not like stardom here. You have to work for your position. So that is for that bit. But for Ronaldo, it was inevitable. You listen to the Ammonia, the commentary. The commentator was like, probably he's looking for a bigger stage, maybe at the Old Trafford crowd. But I don't think that was the case. And he did it. He did it at Everton. And Everton is a place that he has a lot of memories, a lot of goals. He's really scored there. So scoring it at that crowd, in front of that crowd, was a memorable thing. And that is another milestone. He keeps on setting record after record. I would always say, and I will never stop saying it, that we might never see this Ronaldo Messi thing ever again. And I will always stand by this. People can have their opinion. The players, these 2 players, they don't need 1 World Cup or 2 World Cups or 3 World Cups to justify. Yes, because consistency and longevity and at that pinnacle for that long is crazy. It is say we talk about Haaland now, and we can only talk about Haaland 16 years, 20 years to come, when this Haaland replicate this year in, year out. And I think what these 2 guys have done and are doing is exceptional.
Ronaldo is on 700 in terms of career goals. You look at the path
for league goals alone.
Yeah. Look at the path Erling Haaland is on. He scored again over the weekend, and he's now just 8 goals away from equaling Salah's tally, which he used to win the top scorer boot last year. Salah had to score 23 in 35 games to win the Golden Boot. Haaland has scored 15 in 9. You look at the running.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. You think he would surpass Ronaldo 700?
The funny thing is that if I had not lived in the era of Ronaldo, I would just jump into no, he will break it. These 15 goals that he scored that we are making noise about is less than the number of Champions League goals that Ronaldo has scored. That is how crazy it is. We are talking about players who score 15 league goals. League. Messi has 50, Ronaldo has 48. That is how crazy we are talking about.
At this rate, you don't think Haaland can hit those numbers?
This is Haaland's first season. At 22, you are talking about goals. At 22, Ronaldo Nazario had Lima had won 2 Ballon d'Ors. Messi had 2 on his third. Ronaldo had 1. Forget about the goals alone. But what they had done, Haaland's numbers are crazy. I will never and never argue about it. But unfortunately, we have the history of Haaland. He is an injury-prone player. We know about that. And we pray he stays fit. But with the longevity, Haaland playing under other coaches has been different. The question is, will he always get a player like Kevin De Bruyne? Will you always have a coach like Guardiola? You see, one of the things that make Messi and Ronaldo exceptional was that their goals were not limited to the box. They have 50 free kicks scored. Haaland does not have a single. Their goals alone, they have 50 of them being free kicks. That shows you how crazy this is. So they score a plethora of goals. They score free kicks, they score penalties, and sadly, as a City right now, I don't think he's the first penalty taker.
First choice penalty taker.
Is he?
No.
He's not. So he doesn't also have the luxury of taking penalties in addition to that.
But even without penalties, for the 15 goals he scored, he's only scored 1 penalty.
And I'm saying that, you see, for you to reach that, you have to score not just tap-ins and the rest. If you don't have a player like De Bruyne who is behind you, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, who will always be there to supply with goals. We are talking about, and what I'm always saying that Ronaldo and Messi, they were scoring long ranges, and all of Haaland's goals have been in the box. He hardly scores long ranges. In fact, I've never seen him score a free kick. If he scored, then probably maybe the numbers will show. He doesn't score long ranges. He doesn't score, and penalties too, he's limited to it. So those things add to the goals that Ronaldo and Messi were scoring. But nonetheless, the path he's taken, of course, you can't think of any player in the world ever
who's ever going to break that.
Who has started on this path. Like I said, consistency is the key. When Ronaldinho started, everybody thought he was going to shoot the Ballon d'Or so he goes on retirement. When Nazario de Lima started, we thought he was going to be the all-time scorer ever until he had the ACL injury twice. He stayed on for almost 2 years. So you never know. For Ronaldo and Messi, they have been blessed to have major injuries eluding them. They've never gone 4 months, 5 months. But Haaland has gone that long. So we pray he stays fit. He stays fit. It is a possibility. But for him to reach there, he has to, his style of play, his style of scoring has to change, because he might not get these excellent attacking midfielders behind him, like De Bruyne and the rest, to be able to be giving him the passes and all of that. He has to resort to scoring from free kicks. You have Messi and Ronaldo who can score 8 free kicks a season. Messi can give you 8 free kicks. Add 8 to the goals you score. He doesn't have the luxury of also scoring those. I'm sure now that he's scoring, he will probably be given the chance to score the penalties to add to it. So he has a lot of work to do. I put something in one of the pages that in order for him to reach this, for the next 16 years, every season, he has to score 35 league goals. I don't think of this.
You don't think 35 is quite easy? Given the mark, he's already hit 15, and we're just...
How many times has he scored 35 this season?
Well, that's also quite a difficult question, but given the attack...
And he needs to do this for 16 straight years.
16 straight years.
And can he play to 38 years?
Well, the debate will definitely linger on. Let us know what you make, whether you think Haaland can hit those 700 or even beat the tally Ronaldo currently is on. But finally, just before we check out, Graham Potter seems to be having it quite easier at the bridge so far. His magic is working on the Blues. 4 games. He's got 3 wins, 1 draw in there. Are you gradually beginning to see traits of Potter doing good, or this is just a honeymoon period? And
the situation of Potter is a natural phenomenon. Is an autopilot natural phenomenon. Whenever a coach is sacked and another coach comes in, unless you are a Zamalek, they are the team that can sack about 10 coaches in 5 years, because the next coach comes, he wouldn't be even given a chance to even. But whenever a coach, on a normal circumstance, whenever a coach is sacked, the new coach that comes, especially with Chelsea, whenever the new coach comes, everything will, because if you talk about mutiny, then you talk about Chelsea, the players sack coaches before even Abramovich will come and sack the coach. They will find a way of pushing you, not just Chelsea. A lot of teams do it. Excuse me. Excuse me. So when the new coach comes in, every player wants to prove a point because Pulisic had a start and it seems he had a goal, right?
Yeah.
So you give the player the chance. It was one of the supposed people who actually pushed for the ousting of
Thomas Tuchel.
yeah. So they want to prove a point. And this is halfway through the season. So you can't really make a big deal out of it. It is something that happens. It has something that will always happen. And if we want to make any
Meaningful impact.
we have to wait till the next season. Remember Tuchel when he came at first? He played about 20, 30 matches and he was hardly conceding goals. And we all believed it was the touch of Tuchel. But after winning the Champions League and reality started dawning, you've won it, honeymoon is over. So now we play. You have to buy your own players. You go there, they say they don't have money to buy for you and everything. So what do you do as a coach? So now Graham Potter, you can't take it away from him. The team is winning. If he wasn't winning, we would be bashing him. But the team is winning, so we give him the benefit of the doubt. He's done extremely well. But we are never going to use, or I'm never going to use that to say that it makes him an excellent coach, because he's not done anything extraordinary with whatever he's done right now. But I'm okay with the fact that now at least Chelsea is coming back on track, little by little. Of course, this is Chelsea. They can win with a free coach. You can even win a Champions League with a free coach. I don't think he's been given the targets to win the league or the Champions League. I'm sure he's been given the chance to qualify Champions League, maybe get one or two final, semi-final. If there is a League Cup or an FA Cup, if he can just go there, maybe do well. So his target is not there, because how many years was he given? 6 years?
Yeah.
A coach that has been given 6 years, like Moyes, it's a dangerous thing though, but I'm sure he's been given a long period to rebuild this team to a championship level team, because now the last team reached self-actualization, they won Champions League, they won Club World Cup, now the whole thing has dropped. You start from scratch. But this is Chelsea. They always find a way to win. Don't be surprised if they win one of these mania cups, maybe an FA Cup or a Community Shield or whatever. But so far so good. I think he's not doing anything wrong.
Guys, this is our Premier League review segment live on Sports 101. We're shooting today from Adfocus Studios, Anaje, Western Region, Ghana. Remember to subscribe. Remember to drop a comment in the comment section, and do well to like the videos as well.